Berto emails. What do you say?
Let's do it.
This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I am your loyal host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist, professor, and podcaster. Who are you, Umberto Castañeda?
My name is, as you said, Umberto Castañeda, and I comb amoeba flagellum.
So, the first email from Wes Burdett, who is a press officer at PETA.
Ooh. Like in the Hunger Games?
PETA, meaning the organization that protects animals. He says, "Hi, Dr. Kirk and Alberto. We caught your recent episode." We, meaning I'm guessing PETA. "We caught your recent episode and wanted to thank you for your thoughtful discussion about the ethical dilemma of eating animals."
Ooh.
Berto, do you remember this episode?
Yeah.
And you were right on the money about those humane and free-range labels being misleading. They fail to prevent animal suffering and are essentially designed to dupe well-meaning consumers into paying more for the same old cruelties. Berto, apparently, PETA has us on their radar.
Yeah, I like it. Well, for one thing, no offense to PETA, but I was team the other guy.
You have to be more familiar with the Hunger Games to make a joke about it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so here's the deal. Like I think I said in that episode, I knew very little about food production. I never grew up on a farm or any of that stuff. I did know about The Jungle, the Upton Sinclair book, but that was like, I don't know, in high school, I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. This happened in the 1920s or something. My first exposure to it was when the mad cow disease started happening in the late 90s in England. And then I was like, wait, they're feeding the cows sheep brain? Wait, what? Why are they feeding the cows? And that was kind of like a little small window into, wait, are they not doing things ethically everywhere? And then much later, when I, for non-ethical reasons, first started going more vegetarian and vegan, I then started learning a lot more, and unfortunately saw a lot of movies and videos and things, and then my eyes were wide open.
But you're not vegan or vegetarian anymore.
I am mostly veggie.
I wasn't
vegan.
saying that as an accusation. I mean,
the only times where I eat poultry, like chicken, meat, or pork, are when I was in Colombia, because my grandma, whatever they make in my grandma's house, I'll just like eat it. Or if I'm at someone's house and they made a dinner and that's what we're eating, right? But at home, I don't, I don't cook any of those. And if I had my choice, I don't like chicken or beef, The only one that I still miss every now and then is like a bratwurst. I do like a good bratwurst. But anyways, but yeah, so I realized that, wow, even when you're doing things like, quote, ethically, like there's a lot of problems with it. So, that said, it's a problem if you, I think it's a problem if you go hardcore, across any decision, and say, well, okay, no one can eat any animal products ever again. How would you even do that? Right. So I think that there are ways to improve the treatment of animals that are not all or nothing. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't care. A lot of people don't care where their food comes from. They just put it in their mouth.
Well, they would care if they knew or they weren't in denial.
Could be. I mean, I've talked to, not everyone, but I've talked to some, even friends I have, where they're like, I don't care. It tastes good. I don't care.
So the problem is that if you're a regular person in our society, and you're just trying to survive every day,
sure,
then you're caught between a rock and a hard place where even if you start to recognize the massive cruelty that's happening to a lot of animals, what can you do about it, particularly if you're living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
So typical to our society, we blame individuals for things like the environment or recycling or the animal cruelty, when it should be the fucking government that should ramp up. There already are protections, but they should massively increase their protections. That way, all of us can enjoy, you would still have meat and chicken and fish, but it would be within reason regarding the non-cruelty of it.
Right. Just unfortunately, most of us or most people don't vote for the people that would do such changes. So we don't end up with people that could make those changes in the government.
Right. People don't vote for that. So even Democrats don't vote for that. In the same way that Democrats also don't vote for climate change, because we had a presidential candidate on the primary 5 years ago who that was their primary focus. Yeah. He had one issue, that was climate change. And he was like, 10th out of 12.
Yeah.
Anyway, anonymous listener, she says, "Hi, Kirk and Berto. Which Ibanez bass do you own, Berto?"
No, I don't own. That might have been a misstatement or a mistake. I don't own an Ibanez bass. I own several basses. I own a Warwick 5-string bass, the German-built kind, which is definitely better wood, better construction. I own a Stingray, a Music Man Stingray red, beautiful cherry red 4-string bass that I really like as well. I own a 4-string Fender P bass, the Iron Maiden style. And
Iron Maiden style.
Yeah, like if you look at his bass, it's like that version. And I had a Roland synth bass.
Why do they call that the Iron Maiden style? It's just a regular P bass.
Yeah, but he how everyone makes some small modifications, and it's got the right blue, and it's got it's that kind of thing.
I see.
I had also so I had this Roland P bass or Roland V bass, like it was like the kind where you plug into a big pedal and it made synth sounds.
I remember that.
In fact, we had photos with that bass.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what happened to it.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't remember selling it, but I don't have it anymore.
You must have given it, because it wouldn't be something that would fall off of a moving truck.
No, I know. I can't remember, but I don't have it anymore, sadly.
Anonymous patron, she says, "Do you still have a cat? I know you had two." This is talking to me, I guess.
Yeah.
"I know you had 2 cats and then just one, but curious of your current feline situation." Just chiming in. No, I don't currently have a cat, although we are babysitting a cat at this moment. And we often will be babysitting this cat. So I enjoy.
You have a virtual cat.
Her name is Azula, or we call her Zuzu, or I call her Meal Pops, because there was this viral video that was going around like 4 or 5 years ago. And it's like a Russian cereal commercial, and it's for a cereal called Meal Pops. And in the song, it goes, "Meal Pops, zoo zoo zoo, zoo zoo zoo," and I would be singing that song to the cat, and then eventually I called her Meal Pops. Anyway, you know how you have those?
Yeah. And they come about. Wait, wasn't there a girl in Vancouver named Azul that we knew?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was...
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Azul.
Yeah,
because I would always go like Azul.
Yeah. She was one of those adults who had braces.
Yeah.
Did Berto ever find his missing kitty? It's funny that you never gave an update on that.
No, we never did. It's been over a year. We don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It's really sad. The weirdest thing though is the same day where the cat went missing, that same day, Animal Control had showed up at a very nearby house, to get a whole bunch of cats because they had too many. And I was warned by someone that was doing yard work, like, "Hey, you better be careful with your cat because those people are there." And I went and talked to them.
But your cat would have had a tag.
Well, I had a chip.
Right.
Yeah. And you would think, and I went and I showed them a picture and I said, "Hey, make sure you don't." And if you pick a cat, you would check the tag. And they said yes. But it's just a very odd coincidence that the day the cat went missing happened to be that day.
But there's also coyotes and
I know. And
raccoons.
That's very possible it happened. It's just, it was weird. It was a weird thing that...
like having an outdoor cat, you're rolling the dice every time. I'm not blaming you, but
no, I know.
I'm just saying, because some cats, as you know, are just hell-bent on going outside.
Yeah, both Tiger Lily are the one you wrote a song about, and this one, they couldn't be happy inside. Right. Whereas our in-between cat, Tara, couldn't be like, was terrified of the outdoors.
Right. That's what you want. You want a cat that's been inside all the time. Going on. Does Bob have a cat? I'll answer for Bob. No, he has a dog. They have a new dog. Kind of a puppy, mid-size, kind of pit bull looking, but not. Also kind of like a classic Spot, if you know what I'm, like a classic quintessential dog.
Yeah.
Going on. Thank you for answering my questions. I will still like you all, even if you don't have a kitty. If you do, even better. End of email. All right, let's take a break. We get back, more emails.
Let's do it.
All right, we're back from the break. We're clearing the docket of emails to you, Berto. This email is about cheating. We have 2 emails about cheating. Annual long-term middle tier
the urban juror
patron and YouTube member Rachel. She says, I was wondering about your thoughts on the line between being good friends versus having an emotional affair. The internet usually, to cut to the chase, I think she has a lot of guy friends and she's also married.
Right.
So, and she's close to these guy friends. But she's not cheating. She says, the internet usually says, if you have to ask, you're probably crossing the lines. Just chiming in here. What do you think of that so far?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't put stock in what the internet usually says. But my thing is more to do with what is your arrangement or agreement with your significant other. Or with your significant others if you have multiple partners or whatever. So, that's, I think, more important. So, for example, if you are finding that you're hiding your, let's say you go out to a movie or something with this friend and you really aren't like kissing or anything, but you're having to hide it from your partner because either you think or they might think that it's not okay, then I think there's an imbalance in the force there. It's something that you need to address.
But what if you have a partner, a husband who's being unreasonably
and that's fair, but you might still need to address that rather than, in my opinion, rather than hiding around just because, like I feel like
she's not talking about hiding.
I know what I'm trying to say is that if the situation, it's not their situation, hopefully, apparently, but if the situation is such that you are doing things in a way that either you feel or your partner makes you feel that you need to hide and lie and deceive, then I think that could be a problem.
Yeah.
And that line could be different for different relationships.
Yeah. But that's not what she's asking. And I appreciate that. That's, that's one way to answer.
Well, but she wants a definitive, and I'm saying there isn't a definitive answer. It varies by relationships. Like my line with my relationship might be different. I have female friends that I do stuff with, and I don't hide that, and there's no, that's not an issue. But other relationships might feel different about that. And so, I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, definitely. If you do the following activities with a member of the opposite sex or whatever sex you like or whatever, that constitutes cheating. Like that is not something that exists.
Yeah. Going on with the email. I have been in controlling relationships in the past, and sometimes the boundaries are unclear to me. My husband was previously a chronic cheater for many, many years. He has gotten a lot of leftover paranoia, and he is working on it in therapy. It's a slow progress, and I often have to deal with him asking, who is that? Does he like you? Referring to these guy friends. So what makes an I love you to a friend different? So what makes saying I love you to a friend different from saying I love you to an emotional affair person? I don't want to sleep with any of my friends, but I do love them and miss them and want to spend time with them without feeling guilty. End of email. Yeah. So, this is the dilemma, and the foundation is your partner? Wait, was it husband? Let's see, my husband. Yeah. So, often people will focus on rules and tradition and culture as like, well, you're not supposed to do this and it's okay to do this and that kind of stuff. But the fundamental of this is that your husband wants to be assured that you're not going to leave him and that you're not being with anyone else. So when you are saying I love you to a guy friend, or you're spending time with, or you even just have a guy friend, he's not, he might be consciously focused on, is it okay if she go to dinner with a guy friend without me, or that guy seems a little into you, or that guy's more attractive than I am, or something. That's what he's consciously focusing on. But what's fundamentally happening is he's terrified he's going to lose you. So if there's no chance that he's going to lose you, then you have to target that as best you can. It might not work, but what often happens in these kinds of conflicts is that it'll be a debate about these rules and traditions, and you'll get different opinions on the internet. You'll get different opinions from family. The husband's parents might say, like, I can't believe she says I love you to these guys. Because if you paint it in a certain way, it can sound horrible. Whereas your friends might support you and stuff, when it's totally okay for the husband, given his past or his attachment issues, to have a concern. It's not okay that he control or not try to have everyone get their needs met. I think for Rachel, she has a need for friendship, and gender doesn't play a role necessarily, which is normal regarding who you want to be friends with, and the sort of people that come your way that are a good match for you as a friend. So, we're all just trying to not be lonely in this world. And we're all trying to have connection and support and close relationships, loving relationships. And if it happens to be someone that your partner might be a little concerned about, I think you got to try to hold on to that friend while reassuring your partner.
Like for example, so there are things that I wouldn't consider doing with a friend, female or otherwise. Like, it could be you, because I know that it's special with my wife, and it would be weird, right? For example, a new season of It's Always Sunny has been out for a bit. And my wife and I love watching that together, right? So if I come home one day and she's like, oh, where were you? And I'm like, oh, I was, with my friend, name whomever.
Yeah.
And I watched the season of it. It would be devastating. It'd be like,
the same would be for, you and I don't really have firm things like this, but if you got together with a bunch of people and went to like episode 10 Star Wars,
exactly,
and you didn't even tell me,
right,
then it's the same thing,
right? Of course,
that's not cheating. That's just
I'll give you a real example. Like, my good friend Eric, many years ago, wanted to go to Colombia, and for years I told him, no, it's too dangerous. You shouldn't go. And I'm like, okay. And then one year you showed up, or you went to Colombia. And so then, honestly, Eric was hurt. He was like, what? And, it hasn't ended our relationship, but it was a source of hurt.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, so it's stuff like that if you don't take things like that into account in any friendship, let alone a committed long-term romantic relationship, that's going to cause pain.
Yeah, I would just say that's a universal relationship thing of being considerate and having things that are special to the two of you. But I think Rachel might be getting at an interesting question, because she has these guy friends that she says, I love you too. And it probably isn't just kind of like, hey, I love you, man. It might be kind of deep, which is fine.
Yeah.
But there's no plan or sexual tension or anything. And is that an emotional affair? Because, you could have a lot of intimacy in a friendship. You can have eye contact, and you can have a lot of self-disclosure. You can have a lot of need to talk to that person. One of the things that we will sometimes use as a gauge as to who our heart is connected to is when something bad or good happens to you, who do you think of texting or calling first? And that's not always necessarily an indication, but it can be.
Sure.
So if for her, she gets a promotion at work and the first person she thinks of calling or texting is her friend as opposed to her husband, what does that say?
Sure.
And I don't know, it's a question. You can have a very, very close friend who's a guy, and also be totally in love with your husband. The thing that I would really focus on, Rachel, is your husband's recovery from his past, which he was the cheater, by the way.
Yeah.
But also that usually stems from attachment disruption himself. and there's a future world, and I'm guessing you are heading in this direction and striving for this. And it sounds like your husband is actually trying to do this too, because if he wasn't, he would have left you or tried to control. That a future world in which your husband is reasonably reassured that these very, very, very close relationships with these friends, and they just happen to be guys, are completely not a threat. It's hard, though, especially for men, because with our indoctrination into toxic masculinity, of which all of us have been indoctrinated into pretty heavily, it is a major challenge for a guy to have his wife being very close and very friendly with a straight cis guy.
Yeah,
it's a threat. It's hard, and there's no way around it other than reassurance, love, connection. The deeper one's connection, the more assured it is, and reassurance. When he says, you know, Rachel, you're saying that he will ask, "Who is that? Does he like you?" Just put your hand on his lap or on his shoulder, kiss him, or, you know, have some warmth, and turn to him and say, there's nothing going on between me and this guy, and I love you, and I don't want to leave you at all, and I'm not attracted to them. That's just a really, really good friend of mine, but I would never sacrifice our relationship for anything else because you're my top priority. If you said that, he would be like, oh, okay.
He's like, wait, I just asked which movie you were going to see. Now I'm worried.
Next email on a similar topic, an anonymous listener from Canada. She says, longtime listener here, first-time writer. Thank you for everything that you do. I've been holding on to a lot of guilt over the years for being the other woman in my friend's relationship. The other woman in my friend's relationship. Oh, so friends with benefits and the friend is cheating.
Oh, okay.
But having grown up and learned about grooming and predatory behavior, I'm now wondering if I should be holding on to this guilt because I was a teenager when we met and he was 23.
Oh, I see.
Well, teenager is a wide swath of years.
Sure, yeah.
So if she's 19 and he was 23, that's different than she was 13 and he was 23. So I'm going to take a guess and say that she was 17, probably.
Just give benefit of the doubt.
Well, the way she's writing it, because if she were 14, I think she would have written it differently.
Maybe, yeah.
So I'm guessing she was like 17 and he was 23. And they were friends and then friends with benefits, and he was in a committed relationship and they were cheating on the side.
Yeah.
Berto, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I sort of want to agree with you because I don't want the other reality. At the same time, the way that they're framing it makes me think maybe that was the case. Maybe there was more.
Well, let's go with 17.
Yeah.
Because, that could be considered a power differential enough for one to consider it grooming.
The other thing that I wasn't clear on is it still happening or is this all in the past?
Sounds like it's in the past.
In the past, yeah.
She
so hanging on to guilt.
I've been holding on to a lot of guilt over the years, but now I'm wondering if I actually should not feel guilty, but actually should feel victimized.
Yeah. That's a fair question. I guess one thing would be to inquire with oneself, maybe with one's therapist, about the question of, is the feeling of wanting to pivot to feeling victimized a way to escape the guilt, or no, is it that there was legitimately a reason for having felt victimized, right? Because I've certainly in my life played many mental gymnastics with myself to try to justify things, and if one does not pause and really take time to consider what's really going on in one's head, it's easy to justify almost anything. So in this case, I would say, who knows what's right, but the only person that can make that determination is them, maybe with the help of a therapist. That said, it does seem like there's some unresolved issue, at the very least with the friend who was 23 at the time or whatever. And it sounds like maybe that relationship is still going between the friend and their maybe wife now, who knows. So then another question is like, what does this person want out of that? Do they feel like they owe an apology, or do they feel they need to work through the issues in the friendship because they feel they were. So all of these are questions that, of course, we can't answer, but it's the kind of thing that I would want to work through. Like, if I was going through a similar thing, I would ask myself, like, oh yeah, well, where is this feeling coming from? And I would want to work that through with a therapist and say, to see what it is that I want to do about it. Because one option is to do nothing. You could even feel the guilt and then keep going, right? Or you could feel the guilt and then apologize, or you could feel that you were victimized and do nothing, or feel the victimized and then do a confrontation, or just separate, or like don't relate to those people anymore. There's a lot of options, but the only way to do it is to work through it.
Yeah, there's probably a lot to sift through.
Yeah.
Well, without knowing more details, anonymous listener in Canada, it's hard to know what to say, but I will say that in general, a lot of victims of grooming and predatory behavior, a lot of victims will blame themselves and feel guilty. And sometimes groomers will frame it as an affair because it gives legitimacy to it and will give motivation to keep it quiet, right? So I'll say that. I don't know if that's applicable here. The other thing is that even if you were 23 as well, to hold on to a lot of guilt, I understand that a lot of people feel guilty in situations like this, but I don't understand it. We often will blame the other woman when we should be blaming the guy.
Yeah.
If you're the other person, you do have a moral responsibility to some extent because especially if you know the person, then it's really an atrocity if it's like your friend, right? But if you have no idea who the wife was, then I think you have a general moral responsibility not to engage in harm of another human being knowingly when there are other options out there, right?
Yeah.
There's other dudes out there that you could date. And now, I wouldn't say that's a high crime the way that would make someone hold on to a lot of guilt over years later.
Yeah.
Because, you're young, you're trying to date, and you meet I'm guessing you didn't know they were involved, or if you did, you figured that he would have left her. And, it's a slow transition into that kind of thing. And once you're attached, it's hard. He is the major transgressor here.
Yeah, it's also another question I have is how old was the other person? Because imagine the dynamic if the other person was also 23 or 22. And so the two of them are like, let's say in college or whatever, they start dating, whatever. And the 23 goes and finds this high schooler and starts having an affair with them. Like that's a lot more predatory as well, like. I
don't understand what.
Well, because the other possibility is that the other person was also underage and also their age, in which case maybe there was a double case of abuse happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they might have even been friends or something, but who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Break. Another email that is, I think, kind of interesting.
Let's do it.
All right, we're back from the break. Not that the previous emails weren't interesting, but this one's kind of a weird, interesting one. But I like it. Annual highest tier patron, good old Jocelyn G.
Ooh.
She writes in and says, "Hi, Kirk and Berto. I am creating a birth plan, like a plan for. I sent you this email.
Yes.
I'm creating a plan for birthing my child. One of the considerations is whether I want music in the background while I deliver. So obviously I want to know what two masked dudes would put in their labor playlist, specifically stage 2 labor.
Right.
Picture this. Your womb completely opens and your cervix is fully dilated. The baby's giant head now enters your pelvic girdle.
Ooh.
Your uterine contractions are more intense and longer in duration.
Ouch.
Your baby starts to negotiate the bony and soft tissues in your lower body and slowly descends for anywhere between 1 to 3 hours. So what songs do you want to hear during that time?" End of email.
Dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun-dun. Okay, so first off, though, I will say if this is their first birth, I will give a caveat. Be ready to throw all your plans out the window at the last second if things don't go according to plan. We had these very detailed plans and had gone through a lot of training and breathing exercises and yoga and all these things to plan for our first birth. And we were going to do it naturally, and it was all like we were going to do,
Why were you going to do it naturally?
Well, not naturally like at home. I just mean like we didn't want, we wanted to avoid the drugs, the Pitocin. We wanted to avoid doing a C-section. We wanted to just do, birth canal as natural as possible, few drugs as possible, just to give the baby every chance possible, blah, blah. Okay. Everything did not go according to plan. It was 23 hours on Pitocin, lots of pain, eventually emergency C-section, So, and it was fine. It was okay. Like modern medicine, thank you, modern medicine,
I mean, your wife is a small, petite lady.
Yeah.
So,
and the baby was 9.5 pounds because it was 2 weeks late.
Yeah.
All right. If I was going to put together a playlist, the cartoon version of me would in fact pick some like Led Zeppelin or some Rage or some, things to like emphasize the epic nature of what's happening. But in reality, I would probably go with something that's actually more soothing, more maybe more focusing, almost mantric.
Well, that's what I thought. I at first I thought, well, yeah, it should be something like Enya or Orinoco Flow. Do. You remember Enya?
Oh, of course I remember Enya. Yes.
Sail away, sail. You think something more soothing, but then I also wondered, well, you're pushing, so you want kind of workout music,
Yeah. Well, that's why I was going da 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 da. Or, but it could also be something like, since I'm a Beatles fan, I would pick Tomorrow Never Knows in the rotation, right? Because it's got that kind of mantra going dun 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 dun, and it kind of like gets me in a groove, but it's not too over the top. It's not gonna. We're not screaming obscenities or anything like that. So I would put something like that. Also, if you're an electronic music fan, there are a lot of great options that are going to have a driving beat that is going to get you to kind of also get sort of into a trance-like state.
But what would you want is the question.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like I would put Tomorrow Never Knows would be one of my choices. I would also have Here Comes the Sun, right? Because that's a positive vibe and all these things. And then I would actually, I would put, let me think about this. No, you know what? I would go Pink Floyd. And I would put stuff like, what's the one?
Yeah, the delayed bass, that song.
Yeah. Farm, pigs, animals, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, because I would have a mix of these things that are songs that I love from bands that I love, but that have more of that kind of driving aspect to it. But, I wouldn't pick Metallica. I wouldn't pick like Master of Puppets or something. It's too much. It's too aggressive. It's too stressful for that moment, in my opinion.
Well, what I thought as a way of answering the question is, Jocelyn G., if you're truly a fan of this podcast, then one thing that you should put on your playlist is the top 5 songs that were popular when Berto was born.
Ooh.
Do you know what songs they were in the U.S.?
1975, when I was born, January 1975. Magic came later. No,
your birthday's January 19?
January 28, 1975.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got?
Apparently on my calendar, I have it on January 27th, so it reminds me a day early. But January 20. Okay, so I'm guessing the top would be the same.
Yeah.
The Carpenters with Please, Mr. Postman.
Oh. I mean, I was excited. It is. I just don't generally love covers, but okay.
It's a good cover though.
Yeah,
it's
great.
It's covery in that it's very Carpenters-y.
But if I was gonna pick Carpenters, I would, and it's the birth situation. Absolutely top of the world.
Okay.
Okay.
Fire by Ohio Players. Which
I don't remember that one.
I don't remember that one either. Stevie Wonder.
Is that Fire?
No
got
idea.
me burning, got me. Okay.
Boogie on Reggae Woman. That's a great song.
Okay.
Boogie on Reggae Woman. Mandy by Barry Manilow.
Ooh, okay.
Morning Side of the Mountain by Donnie and Marie Osmond.
Huh.
I don't recognize any of these other songs. Let's see.
It's funny.
Best of My Love by Eagles.
Oh, I do love that song.
Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Okay, now that is an epic delivery song, you know, because then you start. In fact, that's it. That's all you got to do. Just go with Freebird. It starts like nice. If I see you tomorrow, and then by the end it's like, and like you're going epic and you're giving birth and
Yeah. Plus, I think the song is 1 to 3 hours long.
Exactly.
Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell, the live version.
Ooh, okay.
That's a great song. Although I'm not familiar with the live version. Some Kind of Wonderful by Grand Funk Railroad.
That's like Afterbirth, you know.
And Changes by David Bowie.
Changes, the face is strange. I love that one too. That one's a good birth canal song.
Never Gonna Say Goodbye by Gloria Gaynor. And another cover, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by
Elton.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're truly a fan of the podcast, you would do the songs that were that were top of the pops when I was born.
Okay. What do we got?
Jackson 5, I'll Be There.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Smokey and the Robinson and the
Robinson and the Bears.
Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. Tears of a Clown, great song.
Yeah, that is a good catchy song.
Superbad by James Brown.
Ooh.
And Green Eyed Lady by Sugarloaf.
Huh.
Which is one of my favorite songs.
Seems like you have a lot of good choices to pick. I like it. I like this approach.
It's no Fire by Ohio Players.
I guess if I were to add one last one into the mix, because again, you want something that's that right balance of like pump you up, but also, not drive you insane, is I might go with a Queen song, like maybe pick your favorite Queen. Like in my case, I would probably, not Bohemian, because Bohemian it's a little too much death, too much chaos. I would actually go with Somebody to Love, maybe, or something like that. Oh, but what am I talking about? You could also do Survivor Greatest Hits. Eye of the Tiger and like Burning Heart. Like all these are good birth-giving songs.
The last thing I'll say is I have it on good authority that it'll be so chaotic and up and down and perhaps painful, maybe even drugged up, that you're not going to notice any music that's on any speaker.
All the plans go out the window.
Yeah. Okay, we have another fun set of emails at the end of this episode. I'm putting these at the end because they're not very rigorously psychological.
Okay.
Although, we'll get into some psychology.
We'll get into psychology.
2 emails from annual long-term middle-tier patron Natasha from California, who we met.
Yeah.
You remember meeting her. She wrote in and says, "Hey, Kirk and Berto. After listening to you and Berto talk about your Alien franchise qualms,"
ooh, yes,
because we were responding to her email before,
right,
"I felt the need to clarify that I too take issue with the more recent films, LOL. With Prometheus and Covenant." So if you remember, Prometheus is the first one of the reboot, the first recent movie,
right.
Covenant the second.
Yeah.
With those 2 movies, I decided to not let the dumb little decisions outweigh the things I like about both movies.
And by the way, I there was a lot of stuff about Prometheus that I did like.
Yeah, when I first saw it in the theaters, I was pretty jazzed.
Yeah.
The more I thought about it, I was thinking, wait, what was going on with that big guy? Like, what's...
And you also don't want the thing where there's a huge rolling thing that can squash you, and then you're like...
I don't know.
But anyways.
People that's a huge meme, but people do that in real life, by the way. You know what I mean? Like, you're just trying to... And plus, it's not like she was turning around looking...
Yeah, sure.
She's just like, run away, So I just think that's like a little silly to get up in arms about. I'm more up in arms at just how... 2 things about Prometheus that I didn't like. One was... the premise does not seem to even be there. It seems like it's just a bunch of Harry Potter mysteries. Like when they had the head and they put it under that thing and it came alive, like there was no explanation. It was a weird thing that happened in the movie.
But yeah, although my understanding is because the cut we saw in the theater cut a ton of stuff.
Well, then you fucked up.
I get it. It's no excuse, but I'm saying that there was there was a method to the madness behind the scenes.
I don't think so. I've watched like 10 times more hours of analysis of these movies than I've watched of the movies, and I'm quite sure that either the explanation wasn't there or it's so stupid and complicated that it's not entertaining.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah.
I mean, can you tell me? I mean,
the dudes came to different planets and they seeded life, and they would seem to sacrifice themselves in the process. And then at some point, one of the things they encountered were these parasite beings that could take over bodies, and they recognized that this was sort of like a threat to life. And then, they had the big ship with the big jockey was one of these creator dudes, but these weren't like necessarily benign beings. They were just trying to seed life. That was it. But at some point, the aliens started taking over, and they started trying to like exterminate life as a result.
I think you have that all wrong. I mean, no offense. I mean, maybe I have it wrong too. But
I mean, that's what Prometheus was trying to show, right?
I think what it was, I don't think it did a good job showing this. I said that really funny. I don't think you have it all wrong. I think that, here's what I think. I should have just said that. Here's what my memory, sometimes you start a sentence and then later down the line, you just want to rewind and start over. Here's what I thought was the lore of those movies, is that there were the creators who did seed life, perhaps on Earth and other places.
I mean, they showed them here. They showed them putting the seed into Earth.
Well, we don't know if they're on Earth. They were on a planet that didn't have life.
I mean, that's a lame implication.
Well,
yeah,
fine. But yeah, we'll go.
Yeah.
And so I thought the story was that they didn't like humans and other people that were on other planets that they had seeded. And so they created this monster kind of thing, this virus thing, and they were going to send the virus to Earth, but then the virus got out of control and killed them all on that planet before they could wipe out humans on Earth. And remember that scene when they're replaying the VCR, if you will, and they're running from the aliens and they all die because they arrive at that station witnessing 1,000-year-old massacre that happened because the aliens killed all those people, but they created those aliens because they were going to send them to Earth to kill all the humans.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure that's true.
Maybe you're right,
but that's a stupid ass thing, and they didn't explain it at all, like pretty much in any of the movies.
Yeah. Okay, maybe you're right. Because I guess that wasn't shown in the movie enough.
No,
because
it wasn't shown at all.
Because what I thought, why did in the first Alien, the implication was that ship that had crash landed in the alien atmosphere where the aliens were, that it was attacked by those aliens, but it wasn't. Like, I guess what was the implication, that the seeds got out of the spaceship or something?
Right.
Okay.
Well,
maybe that's what it was.
I think the ship that they come upon, because they come on that horseshoe kind of ship in the first Alien movie.
Yeah.
And it had the virus being.
And the jockey already had like a burst chest, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so they had come upon a scene in which they had discovered the creators created this virus to kill other planets.
Okay.
But it had gotten out of
They're
containment.
idiots and they don't know how to contain the virus.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But I agree with Natasha in that if I just, there's a lot of really cool scenes and action, I think, in Prometheus in particular, because the David thing and the medical pod thing that when she has it cut out of her body. I mean, that's an intense fucking scene.
Cool. Yeah.
And
there were a lot of aspects that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. So I didn't like the Harry Potter mystery box J.J. Abrams kind of part of it. I also didn't like that the crew was just incredibly childish and incompetent. You know what I mean? It was just
right, because I felt, and we discussed this in the first Alien movie, I don't know, it felt as realistic as one could want it to feel,
Right.
you know?
So I recently rewatched, I probably rewatch Alien every, I don't know, 2 or 3 years.
It's a masterpiece.
And it's a classic case in which the creator himself, Ridley Scott, took away the wrong lessons.
Yeah, I know. It's a Lucas situation.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm a genius. I wrote and directed Alien.
Yeah.
I'll just do more of it's similar with Peter Jackson. But you know, in the first Fellowship of the Ring, you have Legolas, who I can't remember what he does in that movie that is like fantastical.
He shoots. Remember, he shoots 2 arrows quickly, and we were all like, "That's awesome."
Yeah, but in sort of the cartoon version of his feats, he gets on the troll's head, I think, and shoots him in the head, or is that a different? Anyway, but then you fast forward to Two Towers. Well, Two Towers.
Yeah.
And he does the surfing down the stairs.
Isn't that in the third one?
No, that's in the second one.
Oh, okay.
And that's a stupid ass scene, but it's like not horrible.
Wait, the surfing down the stairs?
Then the third one is he's surfing on the trunk of an oliphant.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And so Peter Jackson.
But I thought the surfing on the stairs was the Hobbit.
No, that's the Two Towers. They're at Helm's Deep.
Okay.
And then in the Hobbit,
he's a ninja Jedi assassin.
they all are.
Yeah.
Even the dwarves. I mean, the scene when they're going down the river is
Right.
one of the dumbest things that's ever been put to the silver screen. That river thing.
That scaling, the power scaling problem is always an issue for these franchises, superhero franchises, everything, right? Because they show something cool, and in the next movie they're like, "Well, we got to go bigger."
Because idiot, you know, you say, oh, well, the creators are idiots. No, the audience is an idiot. Because I'll hear people go like, well, that movie wasn't very, it lacked gravitas, or I don't know what they would say, but they'll say things like, I remember in the first one, it was like an epic experience. You know, like people just have simple tastes. You know what I mean?
What is so amazing about the Star Wars to Empire Strikes Back. In Star Wars, you have a sword fight that lasts like maybe, I don't know, 3 minutes, where essentially it's like a couple of parries followed by a seeming surrender and a decapitation. That's it, right? And so then Empire, what do? Do you have a jumping Yoda ninja? No. You have another exchange where one guy is clearly outclassed and struggles till his hand gets chopped off and nearly falls to his death, right? It's awesome. It's like, it's the proper progression. It shows the difficulty of these battles. And yet, if you had if it would have been just Lucas, the second movie would have had ninjas falling from the rafters all over the place.
Well, no, I mean, in Return, the fight between Luke and Vader is still pretty.
It's still good, and actually, So, but by the time you get to episode whatever it is,
I think the delineation is because CGI didn't exist very much in 1983. He couldn't make a flippy Jedi.
That's possible, but even just the. Yeah, certainly the tools constrained things like Jaws and Star Wars.
Because as soon as he got his hands on CGI, he started fucking up the movies.
But that's fair. That said, though, even the style of the battles, you could tell that they were originally grounded in like a samurai duel, right? And he had clearly done some research that in a samurai duel, you're not going like clash, 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 dodge, right? Which they could have. They could have choreographed more. Maybe they couldn't because they couldn't draw the lightsabers enough. Maybe that's the challenge. But no, it was like very samurai, and like every slash is meaningful. And
I think it was. I think it was all. I think it was both. In that it was creative genius that just kind of struck lightning.
Right.
But also due to limitations, which you'll hear about behind the scenes, particularly for Episode 4, they couldn't do much more because those lightsabers.
Right.
There were 2 different versions that they did for the effect, and one of them, you had a giant battery that was powering this spinny thing that was spinning,
Right.
and it was like reflecting light back to the camera, and you had to stay very still with it, otherwise it would like break. And
so it is a combination. You're right. But another example is that in the first movie they have a Death Star with one big thing that shoots from it.
Right.
You could have imagined in Empire, it's a bigger with 7 lasers that shoot all at once.
Well, and then Episode 7, it's a planet,
Starkiller Base or something.
So stupid. Going on with Natasha's email. So to me, she's saying that there's good and bad, and I like the good stuff. What I really take issue with with Prometheus and Covenant is the lack of development of a lot of the characters to the point where I don't really feel much when they die.
Yep. That's
also, the exhaustive use of the airlock. Get another ending.
Yeah.
Although I didn't really take issue with that because
I mean, it's a tool.
a good airlock scene I can appreciate. Going on, I recently rewatched all of the movies, and I definitely rate all of the newer ones lower than I had originally, especially Romulus because it was way too fan servicey. Just chiming in. Yeah, same. When I saw Prometheus, I probably gave it a 7 or 8, but after rewatching it, I probably gave it a 5 or a 6.
Well, but Alien 4, where are we ranking Alien 4? Because that's a bad movie.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. But I think what she's talking, the newer ones, she's talking about the newer ones. Yeah.
I know, but she said she recently rewatched all of them, and she ranks the newer ones lower. And Alien 4 with Winona Ryder is a terrible movie.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've seen that one.
Yeah.
I liked 3 more than other people liked 3.
I know you liked it. I need to rewatch it. I didn't hate it, though. I didn't hate it. I just didn't like it. But
have you seen Romulus, the new one?
I thought
It came out just
I guess I did.
A few months ago.
Are there 3 new ones?
Yeah.
The Prometheus, the second one
Covenant.
I also saw. I didn't see the last one, Romulus.
Yeah. Romulus is a return to form.
Okay.
I would say. And it's right, Natasha is saying it's fan servicey. It is, but it also really breaks away from the attempt, I will say, that Ridley Scott had in Prometheus and Covenant to make it have more philosophical foundations, you know? It just is, it's very similar to Alien in that you have a crew on a ship and they're not incompetent, you know, they're pretty good, and they're not annoying characters really. And an alien gets out and is and starts to kill people, and she has to survive, and I will say though that the first half of the movie, or maybe first 3/5 of the movie, I was like, okay, you know, it's no Alien, but they're returning to form, and it's a variation. And I didn't think of it as too fan servicey. It definitely had fan service, but it felt new and different and fresh. And I'm very much appreciated, especially after watching Covenant. It's just how like up its own ass that movie was. But the second half of the movie went on and on. Like in Alien, you have Sigourney Weaver, Ripley. She, if you actually bullet point the final scenes, it moves pretty quick. It has a second ending, right? Because she gets a thing.
You think it's over, and then it's
right.
Yeah.
But prior to that, it moves pretty quick. You know, it's a pretty standard, I'm guessing 90-minute or 100-minute movie or something.
Yeah.
And the final battle, if you will, is not overly drawn out. Today, I feel like movies, they feel like they have to make the ending epic, and all they're doing is putting me to sleep. Literally, sometimes I'll be falling asleep, and I think I fell asleep. I watched it at home, but I was pretty into the first half, and then toward the end, I'm just like, oh, just get on with it, And each one of the battles at the end, if you will, I thought were okay. There's this one where the gravity is turned off, and because they have to deal with the acid blood, and it actually presents kind of an interesting question. It's like if the acid is really that strong, and you're in a ship in space, how do you kill the aliens and not kill yourself?
Right.
And they, I thought it was okay. It was a little goofy, but it was okay. But that was just one of the battles at the end, and it just went on and on.
That's such an interesting phenomena where you are watching what technically should be exciting, a lot of exciting action happening on the screen, right? Like stuff's happening, aliens are dying, guns are being shot, and yet paradoxically, you feel nothing.
Yeah.
And I think it probably goes back to what Natasha's saying, which is if you're not following the characters and their decisions, and that's not what you're pinning it on, then it's just pixels.
Right. Yeah. And it feels that way. And, I kind of cared about the character, but there was something about, Ripley, the way that character was. Now, I will say that there was a pretty shameless fan service. I had heard with Romulus, the new Alien movie, that they had CGI'd Ian,
the robot,
the actor,
cyborg,
the guy who plays that robot, Ian. I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
but they CGI'd his face, and I heard that, and I thought that's pretty stupid, and I, in my mind, thought that it was a short scene. No, he's essentially the supporting actor, if you will, of the second half of the movie.
Oh, okay.
And
so you have to look at it the whole time.
It's often, and it just feels like, can you just make another movie?
Sure.
Don't involve things from these other. Don't the member berry has no one watched South Park?
Oh, remember that episode of South Park?
Because member berries are a fucking thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you didn't need it, because if a movie like Alien Romulus is good on its face, as it was, I think, in the first half, you don't need member berries to keep people watching.
It's the difference between one couple of scenes at the end of Rogue One that get you that emotional connection versus a whole series of 3 movies where you have to stick the 2 droids that everyone loved as kids, and even though it makes no sense in the story and you can't justify it because of member berries.
Well, and you mentioned Rogue One, and to put a fine point on it, you have to have Princess Leia to some. You could maybe the back of her head, because that's the whole point.
Connection.
The whole reason why we're watching
it is
this.
A plot point. It isn't just, what if we had... No, you have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Going on with Natasha's email. I recently rewatched all the movies and think that Romulus was too fan service. I keep thinking about the critique I heard recently that the franchise could have been taken in a much less predictable direction if not for the introduction of the Queen in Aliens. What do you think about that?
Was it as early as Aliens that there was a queen? I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, so I got to say a couple of controversial things. I'm not a huge fan of Aliens. I know it's a very awesome action movie, and there's a lot of great fun quotes, but I actually...
just a fine point on that. In Romulus, one of the characters says one of Ripley's famous lines.
Oh, really?
And it's so fan service bullshitty, but it happens toward I'm saying the second half.
So what I mean is this. I think Aliens, unfortunately, did set it up in a troubling way for the future, because Alien was this great horror movie, and
well, let me because I didn't know this, because Natasha fills in something here.
Yeah.
James Cameron chose to turn a seemingly intelligent creature from the first film into a drone more akin to a wasp.
And the thing about the first movie is every alien was this lethal, perfect force of nature to kill everything, right? By the second movie, you have this power scaling problem. You have like dozens and dozens of aliens, and everyone's just like shooting gallery. Like, wait, what happened to the brutality of a single alien, right? And it became a fun action thing. Look, I enjoyed it. As a kid, I loved Aliens. But just in retrospect, I feel like that started heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is it could be argued that, especially if this is one's criticism of Aliens, it could be argued that they never should have attempted a sequel to Alien.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Just have another, because that's essentially what Romulus is.
Exactly.
It's just another person on a ship
Yeah.
with the crew dying, and she has to survive.
It's like, why would you make a sequel to Jaws? Oh, wait. But that's the point. Like, what are you going to do in the second one? Oh,
Yeah.
The shark comes out. No, a different shark, but it's bigger this time, and it attacks more people.
Well, that's why I appreciate White Lotus, the TV show, even though I'm not a fan of the second and third seasons.
Because they go into different directions.
But I do absolutely respect the fact that they didn't just, although they did bring back that one woman
I haven't seen the other seasons.
from season 1 to season 2, but it's kind of a noticeable.
It's orthogonal. Like what you're saying is that and I like that about. Do you remember The Wire?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like they're like, you you could take each season as its own thing.
Yeah, they completely just threw away the entire premise and the characters, even though the characters do show up again. But they did that, and it's such a risk, and it actually, I think, cost them a lot of viewers because for people like you and me and other people that love The Wire, we love it, but it never took off like Game of Thrones or something like that, even though it had that quality, or Sopranos.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the next Sopranos show.
Because I want McNulty. What happened to McNulty?
Right.
I want more McNulty scenes.
Right. And I will say that the second season is not as interesting because they're focusing on the docks, you know? But it... but it could have been really silly to just rehash the McNulty thing.
It becomes more of a Lethal Weapon type of situation.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm too old for this shit. So I respect that. Or I respect movies that just don't even have a sequel, even though they're wildly popular, Like, can we think of an example of a movie?
Like the one and done.
They haven't...
Like American Psycho.
They did a sequel.
But that was not fair because they had a horror movie and they decided to slap. Lionsgate was like, just add, look, we own the license, so just let's make this an American Psycho 2. So we'll add a scene at the beginning and a scene at the end to connect the movies.
I'm going to look up my top ratings and see. I mean, there's movies like, well, I guess Fargo did have kind of a sequel because it had a TV show, right? But let's see here. Top rated on my IMDb.
I mean, Inception doesn't have a
Well, see, you got Gladiator 2, which is terrible.
But some of those, like, was it also Ridley, is Ridley Scott and the same people?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's the other thing about Ridley Scott. So I'm gonna go to my list. I recently
got a lot of weird decisions.
Well, no. So I don't think there is a movie creator that has such a disparity between his good movies and his bad ones. So at the top of the list. So these are all the movies that I've seen. I've seen most of his movies, or at least the kind of main ones. At the top of the list, you have Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise,
wow,
The Black Hawk Down, American Gangster.
I never saw that one. That was Denzel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never did see that.
Yeah, that's the one about the guy who
you told
was
me
the
that.
employer of P. Diddy's dad.
That's right, but I never did see that one. Okay.
There's another movie called The Counselor, which is pretty good. The Martian.
Oh, yeah, that's a good movie.
I like The Last Duel. Some people didn't. Gladiator.
Wow, yeah.
Now we get into kind of the mid-zone on my list anyway. We have Exodus, Gods and Kings, which is about Ramses and Moses.
Okay.
People hated it. I thought it was...
I don't know if I saw it.
I thought it was okay. You probably didn't.
Yeah.
Legend, the 1985 movie.
Legend.
With Tom Cruise.
With Tom Cruise.
I gave it a 6. It's fine. Kingdom of Heaven is a really interesting movie that I've watched many, many times. I've seen the theatrical version and the director's cut, which is like twice as long. And the director's cut is way better.
What is it about?
It's about the Crusade.
Oh, okay.
And it's interesting and it has some fatal flaws, and then Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Matchstick Men with...
I remember that. Nicolas Cage, isn't it?
Yeah. And what's his face? I always... Sam Rockwell. But then at the bottom of the list, so a lot of those movies are kind of 5s, which is like, 4 to 5. But then there are movies at the bottom, 1 out of 10, White Squall... from 96, which I thought was so stupid. Robin Hood with
Prince of Thieves?
No. Robin Hood with you probably saw it in the theater, but you forget it. It's with Russell Crowe as Robin Hood.
Oh my gosh, I forgot that was not good.
Kate Blanchett.
Oh my god.
Napoleon, which came out a couple years ago. Stupid ass
Never
fucking
saw
movie.
that.
I mean, especially if you know anything about Napoleon's life.
You mentioned that it was very...
And, people say, oh, Kirk, you're being sexist and misogynistic because it focuses on his relationship with this woman. No. That I appreciated actually including his personal life, and they were actually going off of factual information. They have letters going back and forth between Napoleon and this woman. I can't remember her name, but the depiction of Napoleon, and they tried to encapsulate essentially the majority of his life, which is too big of a chunk. And the way that he directed Joaquin Phoenix to play Napoleon was laughable. Like it's inadvertently comedic how stupid the way Joaquin plays this character.
That sucks.
And then by far the worst movie that I saw in the theaters in 1992, which is 1492 Quest of Paradise.
I forgot about that movie.
This is about Christopher Columbus.
Oh, I know. I remember. Yeah.
So in relation to what we were talking about in the deep dive on immigration. So let me tell you.
By the way, you would think that an epic movie by Ridley Scott about Columbus would be a memorable thing, and I had totally erased it from my memory.
But it was a blockbuster at the time.
Was it?
It was a huge movie.
I saw it. I saw it in the theater.
Yeah. So I saw it in the theater. I would have been 21, and I went with a bunch of my frat brothers, college guys. And it was a packed theater. Must have been opening weekend. And in the front row, just as the movie starts, this Native American guy stands up and starts to shout in this, calm way, but he's shouting that this movie is an abomination and it is.
Does it glorify? I don't remember.
Oh my God!
Does it glorify Columbus?
Oh my God! It completely makes Christopher Columbus into a saint.
Oh my goodness!
And he, as we talked about in the immigration episode, Christopher Columbus. And this is, again, not just some liberal made up shit. All you have to do is go off the written account of people who were on the ground, who were actually his compatriots. There were like Catholic Catholic. What do you call it?
The Jesuits, the priests,
But what do you call it when
ministers?
No, it's on the tip of my tongue. When you go to another place, missionaries. Well, we see you literally, so we have these missionaries who were writing about what Christopher Columbus was doing.
Yeah,
and you can't even imagine.
Well, speaking of which, because you have an epic movie like The Mission that actually shows the horror, and like some people accuse it as like the white savior syndrome, but come on, like it's like that was that was the best you could hope for in that situation, and that's a great movie. And then you have something where it's glorifying my God,
played by Gerard Depardieu.
Yeah, I remember the movie coming out. I remember going to see it. I clearly blocked it from my mind because that's
I recently watched a takedown of this movie. There's a YouTube channel that reviews history, movies that depict history, and will analyze them. And I'm trying to remember, History Buffs, I think they're called, and they do a really good job of telling us just how horrible this movie is. So, and on top of that, it's just a bad movie.
Yeah,
it's not interesting. So, you have someone that did Napoleon, Robin Hood, and 1492, and the same guy made Alien, Blade Runner, Thelma and Louise, and Black Hawk Down.
Yeah, very inconsistent.
Like, what is going on there?
That's a big swing.
Anyway, I was on a mission to find a good movie that did not have a sequel.
Right.
And
Inception.
Okay.
A lot of the Christopher Nolan movies don't have sequels.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That would be really weird. That'd be really weird to have a. Let's see. Conan had. I recently rewatched Conan. Let's see. Rocky, the Bourne movies. God, they all have the Batman movies.
The problem is if it was successful, most often they're going to force people to make a sequel.
Oh, I was looking at the bottom of my list for some reason. I did the wrong sorting. Okay, now I'm on the top. Well,
Primer didn't have a sequel.
It kind of did, actually.
Did it?
Do you remember? It was like the blue flower or something.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
Maybe that wasn't a sequel. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Well, The Godfather, The Departed, that didn't have a sequel.
Oh, I guess you could say that about a lot of Scorsese movies, right?
Yeah, right. Pulp
Not
Fiction,
all,
No Country for Old Men, Fight Club. Fight Club could have easily had.
In fact, I think I've mentioned this. They have a graphic novel sequel that Chuck Palahniuk did, and it broke my heart, dude. Because essentially, like, it is. I don't know if he did it like ironically, because that's obviously the last thing in the world that Fight Club would have is a sequel. So I don't know if it was ironic, but there's this graphic novel that's not entertaining that is a sequel to Fight Club.
The Northman, we saw that in the theaters.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been enough time. Schindler's List, that doesn't have
Oh my God. Yeah.
Forrest Gump, you know,
Right.
you could have had
In fact, there was a sequel to the book.
Okay.
There was a second Forrest Gump.
Let's see. Prisoners, which would be weird to have a sequel.
Did Fletch have a sequel? There were two Fletch books.
Oh, there were Fletch
sequels?
sequels, yeah.
Okay.
I'm 90% sure. The Matrix.
Hey, Groundhog Day didn't have a sequel.
Right. Goodfellas. Well, we don't know if Groundhog Day didn't have, but Goodfellas could have. Well, but because that's a true story.
Yeah.
So you can't have Big Lebowski, City of God, There Will Be Blood, Zodiac,
Napoleon Dynamite.
Children of Men. You could have had a sequel to Children of Men.
Yeah. Any of those sci-fi things you could,
Eternal Sunshine. That'd be stupid to have. Arrival. These are all my top movies.
Yeah.
Mulholland Drive, Guardians. There was a sequel, which I actually like. The Guardians. That's actually, I feel like people need to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy more, because those three movies, the second one is definitely kind of a dip, but
but it's one of the better Marvel movies. It's just nowhere near as good as the first Guardians.
Yeah. And I actually really like the second one.
It's a lot of fun. It's a very fun movie. It's just the first and the third.
It's a little weird because you're dealing with like a god,
right?
But
the first and the third are so great. And
the third, I mean, God, I was crying.
I know, dude.
And crying.
I mean, they really found a way to and drive it all the way to the heart.
Princess Bride, Saving Private Ryan, Spirited Away, Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
You could have seen a sequel to Reservoir Dogs.
I mean, someone could argue that the Quentin universe is
not really,
but not really. Yeah.
Raiders had sequels, which they were okay. Terminator had sequels.
Well, hold on. Raiders had one great sequel, which was 3. Everything else. Raiders 2 as a kid I loved, but it's not a very good movie. In fact, it's very heartbreaking. I tried to show Raiders, Indiana Jones 2 to my kids, and they were bored. We couldn't watch all of it, which I guess is a different time, different place.
Yeah, the third one is really great.
It's third.
With Sean Connery is so good.
And then as far as I'm concerned, I stopped there.
Spinal Tap is having a sequel this year.
Really?
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
What?
Let's see.
Is it going to go to 12?
Irreversible. That doesn't have a...
Oh my God, dude. It's got a prequel.
Fifth Element. You could have seen a sequel to
that could have been a whole series of movies.
Unforgiven. You could have seen a sequel to that. The Thing. There was a remake.
Wait, yeah, that's true. Remake.
Edge of Tomorrow would have been a perfect...
the repeat, die, rinse, die, repeat, whatever. Yeah.
That's actually impressive because
that
you could... That movie was 11 years ago.
Right.
You could absolutely see them. The aliens are back.
Yeah.
Or you have to go to the other planet. You know what I mean? Like, that's the restraint. Because I watch Edge of Tomorrow.
Don't give them ideas.
I watch Edge of Tomorrow like once a year. It is like...
It's a great movie.
It's a perfect...
And that movie had no business being that good.
Yeah.
No one expected. No one...
And the characters are good. The writing is good. The premise is good. The acting is good. Tom Cruise is amazing.
Right.
I mean...
What about James Bond? That one doesn't have a sequel.
I watched this YouTube channel, Patrick... I can't remember his name, but he recently did a whole
James Bond
retrospective that was really interesting.
Ooh, I gotta watch it.
It puts it all in kind of perspective because he also breaks down the Daniel Craig movies and puts it in perspective for me because when I watched the more recent Bond movies, I felt like some of them, the more recent ones, I would walk out of the theater and say, was I just not paying attention?
No, they were not good.
Because it was
convoluted and not good.
Yeah, convoluted.
Yeah.
But what he points out is that the movies are often reacting to the reaction to the last movie.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Like, oh, it's too convoluted. Okay, now we're going to get down to basics. Yeah. Oh, it was too basic. We got to make it more complicated. But he also said that they've always been that way.
Yeah, that's fair. Like Moonraker was a reaction of what people thought they liked about Spy Who Loved Me. So like, let's dial that to 11.
Well, also Moonraker was a reaction to Star Wars, which had come out a couple years earlier.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
there, I think for each era, there are a couple of movies that I think are, well, almost for each era. There's one or two movies that I think are great. But each one of the Bonds has a lot of bad ones too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going on here, I keep thinking about the critique I heard recently that the franchise could have been taken in a much less predictable direction if not for the introduction of the Queen and aliens, and it's an interesting thing to think, like what would have been if they kept the alien. It was never really fully explained what was going on in the mind of the alien in the first movie, right? But I think most people walked away from the first movie, they would have said that the alien was intelligent, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they have thought that?
Yeah.
Because it acted intelligent.
Yeah. Well, of course. Like there was no question about it. It had an understanding of
how to trick people,
tricking and what absolutely no question. But it was.
But like I said, it would be really hard to make a sequel regardless. And so I think actually that is kind of the genius of Aliens. If you're just trying to make another movie based in this world that is entertaining, I think that's one of the ways you can go with it.
Aliens was very successful in that regard. No question about it.
And the good characters,
right.
You know what I mean? Like and it develops Ripley even more and da-da-da.
It's just that what I thought was so great in that first, I loved everything about it. But one of the things that they point out in that first movie is they go like, this is the perfect species. It's like evolved to perfection to be like the ultimate predator, right? So I thought that could have been explored a little further. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm kind of with you. I didn't need a sequel ultimately. Like, let's leave Alien as its awesomeness as it was. But if you were going to go with a sequel, I would have loved to see them lean more in that direction. They sort of went the other direction, which is, all right, let's just make a lot of these things and make them slightly less powerful. And it kind of puts Alien 3 in perspective too, because if the foundation was, let's not just rehash the past movie, let's actually swing for the fences while keeping it within world. Mm-hmm. And 3 is, if you see it in a certain way, it is that, right? Yeah,
it's
true.
A complete departure.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I think Aliens 3 suffers from what Jackie Brown suffered from after Pulp Fiction, in that people saw Pulp Fiction and a bunch of idiots walked away from that movie going, wasn't it cool when he stabbed that girl in the chest with the adrenaline?
That was the best part of the movie, right?
Well, wasn't it awesome when like so-and-so like shot that person and stuff? And it's just like, you took away the wrong thing.
Sure.
Jackie Brown is arguably a more subtle movie, but it has all the Quentin Tarantino.
Right. It's an amazing movie.
It's the reason why it's arguably my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. And I rewatch that one all the time. And so when people watched Alien 2, they walked away going, wasn't it awesome when they shot all those people?
So you want an Alien 3.
And then you see Alien 3, and it's nothing like that.
What I agree with you on that. What I think I would have done with Alien 3 is not have Sigourney Weaver for one. Because that's part of the issue. It's like, well, we got to have Sigourney because she's the star. Like, well, okay, fine. But then what you're doing is you're rehashing. But you're right that Alien 3 tried, and maybe it didn't quite succeed, but it did try to be different than in that sense.
And I think it suffered from production conflict behind the scene. David Fincher.
Oh, right.
But I also think that, from my understanding, like the producers and the studio were fighting about the script and... whenever those kind of things happen, bad things happen.
I remember being so excited when I found out Fincher was making it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I was aware of Fincher back then.
Well, because he had already done 7, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I'm not. I mean, 7 was fine.
Oh, I loved 7. 7 was like... I had never seen a movie like it before that, right? Where it was so threatening to watch 7 in the theater. I literally felt... fear for my life.
I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. Anyways, but so I was kind of excited to see what he would do.
You know what's interesting about this rating is that I gave it this rating back then.
Yeah.
So this wasn't like...
Right.
Because I had an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Because
it's insane that you have that system going back so far.
Right. Because I've only seen this movie once.
Right.
So when I saw it, in 1995, I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I know that today.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
That's incredible.
Let's take a break. When we get back, let's nerd out on Star Trek because Natasha has a question about that.
Let's do it.
All right, we're back from the break. So Natasha wrote in another email about Star Trek and says, I finally caved in and decided to watch the original Star Trek after years of hearing about it being the
original TV show, the Star Trek.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm 5 episodes into the first season and I'm enjoying it. But I keep wishing the discussion around Spock's assessment of emotions was a little less black and white. Just chiming in here. I'm surprised that you like it, Natasha, although this is really a testament to how nerdy you are, Natasha, because I've gone back and, I loved it as a kid.
I love it. Yeah.
Because it was basically the only thing, aside from Battlestar Galactica, that you could watch, or Space 1999. But I loved it. But upon rewatching it as an adult, I'm just like, okay. This is, it's a TV show that's made in 1966.
Yes, it is very limited in what it can do. But as a kid, it was mind-bending. It was Twilight Zone. It was Black Mirror. It was space. Because it wasn't...
That's a good point. It is Black Mirror
right
back then,
It had that threat to it. It wasn't just... Star Wars felt... Of course, you felt threatened by Darth Vader, but mostly it felt hopeful. I could be a Jedi. I could have the Force, right? Star Trek was like, oh, this space is kind of spooky and dangerous.
It felt adult. Going on. In your opinion, does that conversation about Spock's emotions get more nuanced in the franchise over time? So Natasha is like, I know there's a lot more show and a lot more shows and a lot of movies. Does it get more nuanced, the conversation around Spock's suppression or lack of emotion? Berto, what do you think?
I don't remember well enough. All I remember is that they kept that character, as far as I remember, pretty steady throughout the show. I do think in the movies, the whole, search for Spock and then after that and stuff, I think he got a little more nuanced maybe, but I don't know. You tell me. You probably know it better. I do know this. As a kid, I did find it fascinating, the thought that there could be, because it's interesting. It wasn't a robot. Because, the idea of a robot has no emotions, that was kind of tried and done. But this was it's another sentient species that operates differently. And they just perfectly logical. I always found that super fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've talked about this before, that Spock, Data, other characters like this, Sherlock Holmes, are the male ideal in our society, in that they are ultra competent. In the case of Spock and Data, they're ultra strong.
Right.
They are, they have a lot of stamina. Elves are also Legolas, you could argue, not in the books, but in the movies.
They're stoic, strong, very wise, but also emotionless.
Right.
And fearless.
Right. Yeah. They have complete control over their emotions. They don't cry. They don't get angry. They are stoic, ultra stoic. And this is the male ideal. Japanese art has a different flavor of this, but it's in the same thing. I mean, the stoic Ronin samurai that arrives from out of town and is quiet and has his hat over his eyes and calmly and coolly deals with the bully, but then when pushed into a corner with one slash of his sword, cuts him down. Every samurai, every anime, every...
You gave me chills just now.
It's stupid, though. It's so fucked up.
But I will say this, there's also a common thread to all of them, including Spock and Data. There's always a little golden heart hiding under that surface.
Yeah, because I would argue that Data and Spock have always had emotions.
Yeah, they care deeply.
They just don't have feminine emotions. Yeah. They don't have classic emotions.
Yeah,
but they.
Well, but you could say
they care about their. If they were emotionless, they would be like a calculator. But they clearly care about the people around them. They have relationships, you know.
But I'm saying, like, even if you kept it to the male thing, because they also don't sit there and go like, well, then this will be your demise, or we'll make sure you die. You know, they don't say stuff like that.
Right. I guess there's two versions of the toxic masculine ideal. One is Spock and the other one is Kirk.
Yeah.
Captain Kirk is
like that.
a lust rage monster who is even more competent and rewarded for all of his emotions.
But that's an interesting thing, right? Because he is the main one. So ultimately, it's like we want both, but we'll take the rage one.
Right. So, Natasha, the answer that I'll say is that it's complicated. Spock is complicated. Even within the original series, it's, you know, and there's been a lot written about this, actually, that what's really going on with Spock and what's really going on with the Vulcans. And of course, the writers over the years, of which there have been dozens upon dozens of writers who have contributed to the lore of Vulcans and Spock and Data, for that matter, and because there have been other Vulcans on other shows.
Right.
And Spock is only half Vulcan, half human. And so there's been numerous writers that have come at it from different angles, but I would say on average, especially when you think about a character that's been written over the span of like 5 or 6 decades, the character has stayed pretty consistent.
Yeah. However, like
I will say, aside from the pilot, because if you see the pilot,
is it different?
He's very odd. You just have to the way he was directed was very strange.
But wouldn't you say, like, in the Wrath of Khan, because isn't the whole thing of him sacrificing himself, like, that's kind of, I mean, it depends. Obviously, with Nuance, you'd say, like, so that's consistent because he's logically analyzed the situation and blah, 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 right? Which is, I think, how they try
the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one.
And at the same time, well, at the very least, you could say that they do play with the edges of that question, like, because you could ask, okay, well, but that is assuming he's calculated all the permutations and that's the one, blah, blah. So they are playing with the question, right?
Well, and they play with it, I think, in this, now that I think about it, in this really good way, in that you get the sense that Spock does care about Kirk, and he is half human.
Yeah.
And that by the...
Oh, that's a good point. He is half human, so you could give a little plausible deniability.
But his front-facing self is Vulcan. He is trying to suppress his humanity, and he does so effectively. But the contrast that they wrote into the script, people will say that episode 3, the search for Spock, is not good. It's not as good as 2 or 4. My 2 favorite, maybe original Star Trek things, is Wrath of Khan and the Undiscovered Country. Yeah, the one with the whales.
Yeah.
I rewatched that movie, and it's so good. It's interesting. It's funny as fuck. I mean, it has so many good jokes in it. And it's so 80s, and I remember seeing it in the theater when I was a kid. In fact, when the first movie came out, my birthday, it must have come out that December, and I asked to see that movie with my friends. And so at the age of like 9 years old, we saw the first Star Trek movie, and it's the most boring thing. It's trying to be 2001. And it has long drawn out sequences, and it's very philosophical, and they learned from their mistake.
I remember that.
And then they made Wrath of Khan, which is very action oriented. And anyway, but so,
and Wrath of Khan is the one where they're in San Francisco, right?
No, that's 4.
No, I'm sure it's 2.
Yeah. So with 3, because Spock dies in 2, right? But
do you know what I was referencing? It's from on Cinema at the Cinema. They have this long running argument where Greg Turkington claims that Star Trek 2 is in San Francisco.
I find Eric, what's his face, or Tim Heidecker's later products to be so meta that it's come around to boring again. Like, I love Tim and Eric show. I even liked their movie, but the stuff that he's done more recently, I find it's like it's just boring now.
Well, you mean like the what's the parody of
the movie review one and two?
No, that one, no, I won't go with you there. I love
the trial thing.
Yeah, that part is
was so boring and not funny.
Yeah, but he's got so many seasons. I mean, it's like, you know.
But give me a Tim and Eric episode, you know.
It's just, but you know, like that season, like 12 or something on cinema, you know.
Anyway, so with 3, Spock is resurrected essentially because they jettisoned his dead body onto a planet that they terraformed, and it's kind of it's like a believable premise that he would come back. I mean, it's stretching, a lot, but if there was some way to bring him back, which I think. So it's actually kind of interesting. So I actually had Leonard Nimoy's son on the podcast. Did you know that?
No, I don't think I knew that.
You don't listen to this podcast?
I do. I just forgot that one.
But from my understanding, Leonard Nimoy had a pretty conflictual relationship with Star Trek because he didn't like being typecast in this way.
Sure.
And I think he wanted to be killed. Maybe, I don't know, but they managed to bring him back. Anyway, point is that when he comes back, he is kind of like a baby, but he's also more Vulcan, and he isn't really himself. So they contrast what he might be like if he hadn't had all the experiences with Kirk and the others, in that he is more logical and not attached. And so you have that sharp contrast, between Wrath of Khan and 3. And he's still kind of suffering from that in 4, actually, when they go to San Francisco.
Yeah.
He's still a little addled in his head. But what they're telling us in this interesting, several decades long storyline about Spock is that even his Vulcan side has a human emotional side to it that is good, that he can accept.
Yeah.
Now, I will say in the 60s, the Freudian view of the psyche was the only thing in town because we just didn't really have anything else in popular culture anyway. And I think in a good way, they actually leaned into that in the show. And Spock was like, you could argue like the super ego.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and Kirk's more the id, and sometimes I say McCoy is more of the ego. But I think that elevates McCoy more than what was actually true, because McCoy, although often is like the trio that we think of, McCoy wasn't a core character very often. He was around, but it was much more Kirk and Spock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would say that Kirk is the id and the ego.
But I would agree with that, because otherwise you would think that there's always or most often a scene where it's McCoy that really brings Kirk around.
Right.
But that's not, it happens, but it's not like a key thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So they had a Freudian view in that there's a scary underbelly of our psyche that wants to kill and have sex with our mom. And, it kind of had that feeling to it, where when Spock would occasionally have his feelings come through, there's a famous episode actually that Natasha referenced in her longer email. That right away they wrestle with Spock's emotions. Episode 4, season 1, where he's crying and he's ashamed of himself. And
why was this happening?
There's a virus that essentially makes everyone drunk.
Oh, I see.
And he can't restrain his emotions anymore. And the emotions that come out are really exaggerated, horrible emotions.
So that's interesting. So I didn't remember this, that the brain of the Vulcan actually has all the normal stuff, except it's being suppressed actively.
Well, so here's what I think is that originally they wanted Vulcans to not have emotion.
Yeah.
But they wanted Spock. And so originally, this is just my speculation. I'm sure there's been a lot written about it. But what I would imagine is that Gene Roddenberry had Spock as kind of a secondary character. And in the pilot, you can kind of see that. He's just one of the crew.
Yeah.
But I think from my memory of reading, accounts, is that Spock was a fan favorite. And so they started leaning into it a little bit. So I think they wanted to give, this is all just me making shit up, so I have no idea. But I think they wanted to give Spock a little bit more humanity, so Gene Roddenberry retconned it so that Spock was half human, half Vulcan.
That would explain that.
Then later, even later, they said, well, Vulcans, because eventually they had to flesh out the Vulcan history, and I think, this is off the top of my head, that in ancient history, Vulcans were very warlike, because the Vulcans and the Romulans were actually the same.
Right. They split off.
And the Vulcans decided to change their society by changing the mind of all the Vulcans so that they wouldn't kill each other. And what they had to do was shut down all emotions. And so it became this active practice of like meditation, religion, and sort of thing.
Now, I'm trying to remember. So were the Romulans and the Klingons at war with each other?
They didn't like each other.
They didn't like each other.
I'm trying to remember the very beginning lore, but I think it was Romulans and the Klingons were at war, and the Federation was at war with both of them too. I don't know.
It's funny because like the Vulcans were like the mentats of the Star Trek universe, or at least of the Because I think maybe initially it was supposed to be more of like. Yeah, like just like an alien calculator type character. But then it offers a lot more possibilities for storytelling if there's more nuance to that. Yeah.
And, to all the massive Trekkie nerds out there, for whatever I bastardized, I apologize. I'll also mention that there are other important Vulcan characters that the creators had greater forethought about how to shape these characters, like Tuvok from Voyager, this kind of thing, where they could sort of start from scratch, knowing that they were heading in a direction and have a story arc for Tuvok. And you could argue that Data is just kind of like a Spock-ish character, fulfills a certain role, and did
the Next Generation have a Vulcan in addition? No, they didn't have a Vulcan.
There were Vulcans that would join them sometimes, but they didn't have them on because I think it would interfere too much with Data. But there's a whole, and there's so many episodes back then to those shows, and these shows were less action oriented and more character oriented. So there's a lot that can be said about all of these characters. But I will say that Spock's character, now that I think about it, was held pretty well together, and by the time we see him show up in the J.J. Abrams reboot movie, which I actually like that first one.
I love that first one.
That by the time we see him show up in a, not only in a time, where Leonard Nimoy shows up in a time travel, but we also see what's his face playing a younger Spock, the guy who played Silas on Heroes. I thought that character was pretty good. Although I will say that the character was more emotional in the J.J. Abrams universe, but they kind of had an explanation for that. Anyway, I'm meandering. Well, Natasha, hopefully, you and good old Jocelyn G. I would say about half the emails we get are from the two of you. So this episode,
enjoy your rambling responses.
And Jocelyn G, good luck with your labor.
Oh yeah,
I think it's obvious what should be playing during labor. It's this podcast.
Absolutely, and this podcast while I am singing a song about labor. Go into the world, give birth through your canal. You can do it, push it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wait, involve more canal talk,
You got a lot of canals. Some give birth, some don't. But I want you to focus on the ones that do, because otherwise there'll be problems.
Poo. You should have said poo. Poo was right there. It was just there for the taking.
Damn it.
Because there is poo.
There is poo.
I mean, usually, right?
Winnie the Pooh.
And that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. If you're still listening, then you're either a total nerd throwing your phone at the wall because of all the bullshit that I got wrong, or you're asleep because you listened to this episode when you're asleep.
Wake up.
And either way, take care of yourself because
you deserve it.